Look, people keep saying the modern battlefield is gone, that conflict is outdated, replaced by comfort and screens. But that belief is the illusion itself. The battlefield never disappeared. It just changed its disguise. What used to wear armor now wears aesthetics. What used to speak through force now speaks through perception. Listen carefully. The modern world doesn't fight with weapons anymore. It fights with attention, emotion, and identity. And most people don't even realize they've stepped inside it. They say it's all peaceful now. No swords, no shields, no war zones. But look closer. The tension is still there. It just learned how to smile. It posts photos. It curates identity. It calls itself emotionally evolved. The truth is uncomfortable. What you call romance, approval, connection, a large part of it is psychological positioning, not open conflict, controlled perception. A man today doesn't face armies. He faces illusions that feel personal. And that changes everything, because you don't defend yourself from what feels like love. You surrender to it. Remember this. Not every emotional pull is natural. Some of it is structured influence. And if you can't see that, you're already inside it. The old idea of masculinity was external struggle. Now the struggle is internal stability, under emotional pressure. The enemy isn't a person, it's the distortion of perception itself. When Sun Tzu speaks about control, it's not about aggression, it's about understanding systems before entering them. Control of self, control of interpretation, control of timing. Most men don't lose because they are weak. They lose because they enter emotionally unprepared. They call it love first, then try to understand it later. But by then, the structure is already formed. Look, entering without observation is not bravery, it's exposure. And exposure always looks like romance at first. All warfare is based on deception, not lies in the crude sense, but presentation shaped to influence reaction. People don't show themselves fully. They show what creates a response. Online identity is not neutral expression. It is curated perception. A smile, a pose, a version of self, all designed within awareness of being seen. And most people mistake that for authenticity, because they confuse expression with full truth. But expression is always selective. Sincerity without awareness becomes vulnerability, and vulnerability without timing becomes loss of position. Not because honesty is wrong, but because timing is ignored. Understand this. Emotion without structure always gets consumed by structure. Always. Silence is underestimated, not absence of meaning, but control of reaction. A man who reacts constantly becomes readable. A man who pauses becomes unreadable. And unreadable is harder to influence. But silence is not withdrawal. It is presence, without leakage. No emotional oversharing. No premature exposure of intent. Just observation. Boundaries define psychological respect. Not anger, not force, not performance. Boundaries are quiet signals of self-definition. A man without boundaries teaches others how to treat him, not through words, but through tolerance. Adaptability matters more than resistance. Like water. You don't fight every shape you enter. You adjust without losing essence. She reacts emotionally? You don't escalate. She withdraws? You don't chase. You remain stable, while the surface shifts. Listen closely. Control is not forcing outcomes. Control is not being pulled by them. Most men fight emotion with logic. That mismatch guarantees loss of influence. Emotion doesn't respond to explanation. It responds to presence. So the real skill is emotional neutrality, not suppression, not indifference, but stability. Under fluctuation, you don't counter emotion with more emotion. You remove volatility from yourself, and volatility loses leverage. Planning is not speech, it is behavior consistency, your tone, your timing, your silence. They communicate more than explanation ever will. A lion doesn't announce dominance. The environment adjusts to it, naturally. Remember this. Explaining strength is already a form of weakness, because strength that needs explanation is still insecure. The real danger is not manipulation, it's untrained perception. When you cannot read patterns, you mistake patterns for coincidence. So study behavior, not words, not claims, not promises. Behavior under no observation reveals more truth than performance under attention. Chemistry without clarity is distortion. It feels powerful, but it removes judgment. And once judgment is gone, reaction replaces choice. Bait exists in emotional systems, small provocations, subtle tension shifts, controlled distance, not always intentional, but always effective when unrecognized. The disciplined response is not chasing equilibrium. It's refusing emotional destabilization. You don't enter the reaction loop. Look, if you are always reacting, you are never leading. Real mastery is not winning emotional exchanges. It is becoming unprovocable. When provocation fails, control loses access. Mystery is not deception. It is emotional discipline under exposure. Less readability equals more perceived depth. But the paradox is simple. The moment you try to create mystery, you lose it. It is preserved, not performed. Power shifts when need disappears. Need for validation, need for response, need for resolution. When that disappears, so does pressure. The general doesn't fight every engagement. He chooses where energy is spent, because wasted reaction is loss without battle. Understand this deeply. Peace is not passive. It is strategic non-reaction. Modern emotional dynamics are not pure conflict. They are continuous negotiation of influence, subtle, constant, invisible. And in that space, attention becomes currency. Accessibility becomes exposure. Scarcity becomes perceived value. But real scarcity is not distance. It is unpredictability. With stability, not chaos. Controlled presence. Silence creates projection, and projection fills gaps with meaning. That is where influence begins. Inside interpretation, not instruction. In chaos, most people lose clarity. But disciplined presence does the opposite. It sharpens under pressure. And when you stop chasing emotional control, you begin to generate gravitational control. People orient around stability. Naturally. Listen. The goal was never domination over others. It was immunity to internal instability. Because the man who cannot be emotionally pulled cannot be strategically moved. Control is not loud. It is not reactive. It is not emotional performance. It is stillness with awareness. And in the end, you are not mastering people. You are mastering your own response to them. That is the real shift. Not war, not conflict, but unshakable internal structure. The calm man doesn't win battles. He becomes the condition in which battles lose meaning.